In the luminous archives of Alexandria, before the flames consumed them, certain Gnostic initiates preserved a secret that would shake the foundations of orthodox spirituality. A teaching so radical that even among the enlightened it was whispered only in the innermost circles of mystery schools. They understood that what the world called Sophia's catastrophic fall might instead be the most deliberate act in cosmic history, a divine infiltration into the darkness orchestrated by the Pleroma itself. The Apocryphon of John declares, "And the Sophia of the Epinoia, being an aeon, conceived a thought from herself, and the conception of the invisible spirit and foreknowledge." But what if this conception was not rebellion, not error, not the tragic stumbling of a lesser deity, but the fulfillment of an ineffable purpose woven into the very fabric of reality? You have been taught that Sophia fell. You have heard the narrative repeated across centuries of theological discourse, the youngest aeon of the Pleroma, overcome by desire to know the unknowable Father, creating without her consort and bringing forth the monstrous demiurge, the architect of our prison realm. This interpretation positions Sophia as the cosmic scapegoat, the divine feminine punished for her curiosity, her creative impulse branded as transgression. Yet beneath this surface, reading lies a mystery so profound that it inverts our entire understanding of creation, suffering, and the relationship between spirit and matter. What if the Pleroma never made mistakes? What if every descent is an ascent in disguise, and Sophia's journey into the shadows was the most exquisite act of love the divine realms have ever conceived? The traditional Gnostic narrative, preserved in texts like the Hypostasis of the Archons and Pistis Sophia, portrays a cosmology of error cascading through the celestial hierarchies. In this telling, Sophia gazes beyond the veil of her aeon, seeking to comprehend the incomprehensible source without the stabilizing presence of her masculine counterpart. Her thought becomes substance without permission, her desire solidifies into form, and from this unauthorized creation emerges Yaldabaoth, the blind god who fashions our material prison, declaring himself the only deity. Sophia, realizing her catastrophic mistake, withdraws in shame and horror, her divine light now trapped and fragmented within the dense matter of the physical universe. This interpretation has dominated Gnostic thought for 2 millennia, positioning the material world as fundamentally flawed, a cosmic accident born from divine error. The early Valentinian schools elaborated this theology into complex emanation schemas, mapping the progressive diminishment of divine light as it descends through increasingly dense spiritual strata. Church fathers like Irenaeus seized upon these narratives to condemn Gnostic cosmology as pessimistic, world-denying, and ultimately heretical. Yet embedded within these same texts are verses that suggest an entirely different reading, one that the initiated preserved in their oral transmissions even as the written word conveyed the exoteric version. Consider the precise language used in the Apocryphon of John when describing Sophia's activity. She conceived a thought from herself, not against herself, not in violation of her nature, but from the very essence of her divine being. The text does not describe her as deceived or corrupted, but as acting from her inherent creative capacity. What if this capacity was not a flaw, but her function? In the architecture of the Pleroma, each aeon embodies specific divine attributes and purposes. If Sophia represents divine wisdom, the active, creative, descending aspect of consciousness, then her movement toward manifestation might be precisely what wisdom does. She is the bridge between the transcendent and the immanent, the force that carries divine awareness into realms where it can know itself through contrast and struggle. The Corpus Hermeticum speaks of the divine mind descending into matter by its own will, suggesting that incarnation is not punishment, but purpose. Could Sophia's descent follow this same pattern, a willing sacrifice undertaken not from ignorance, but from supreme gnosis? The concept of divine descent as strategic mission appears throughout mystical traditions, offering compelling parallels that illuminate Sophia's journey. In Hindu Vedanta, the doctrine of Avatara describes the supreme reality deliberately taking form within the world of Maya, not because it is confused or fallen, but because divine consciousness must enter its own creation to redeem it from within. Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita declares, "Whenever righteousness wanes and unrighteousness increases, I send myself forth. For the protection of the good, for the destruction of evil, and for the establishment of righteousness, I come into being age after age." This is not error, it is cosmic strategy. The divine knows it must become entangled in its own web to transform it from the inside. Similarly, in Mahayana Buddhism, the Bodhisattva vow articulates a deliberate postponement of ultimate liberation, to remain within samsara for the sake of all sentient beings. If you enjoy this content and want to delve deeper, access the Hidden Codex Library. Register now to get full access to the Internet's largest collection of Gnostic and esoteric wisdom, available in eBooks, audiobooks, videos, and music. Link in the description and pinned comment. The Bodhisattva chooses suffering, chooses incarnation, chooses to enter the very realms from which others seek escape. This is not weakness or mistake. It is the highest expression of compassion and wisdom united. Sophia's journey mirrors this pattern exactly. She descends not from failure, but from love, embedding fragments of the pleroma within the darkest corners of manifestation, so that even in the realm of the demiurge, sparks of true divinity await awakening. Imagine standing in the uppermost chamber of the pleroma, that realm of perfect unity where all contradictions dissolve into luminous harmony. Here consciousness knows itself completely, without shadow, without otherness, without the friction that generates growth. It is bliss, but it is static bliss, a perfection that cannot evolve, because evolution requires resistance, requires the not-self against which the self can push and thereby discover new dimensions of its being. The pleroma faces a paradox at the heart of all spiritual cosmologies. How can the infinite expand? How can the complete become more complete? The answer lies in what the alchemists called the solutio, the dissolution of rigid structures so that new forms might emerge. Sophia becomes the agent of this cosmic alchemy. Her descent creates possibility where before there was only actuality, introduces potentiality into the realm of pure being. By entering limitation, she generates the conditions for consciousness to journey, to seek, to struggle, and ultimately to return, transformed by its adventure through materiality. You carry this pattern in your own nervous system. Every spiritual awakening requires first a forgetting. Every enlightenment presupposes a darkness from which light emerges with intensified brilliance. Sophia's fall is this forgetting writ large across the cosmos, the divine amnesia that makes remembering meaningful. The Gnostic texts themselves contain encoded evidence supporting this mission interpretation, though it requires initiatic reading to perceive it. In the secret book of John, after Sophia creates Yaldabaoth, the narrative states that she hid him in a luminous cloud. This is a curious detail. If she has made a terrible mistake, why hide the product in luminous radiance? The text continues, "And she placed a throne in the middle of the cloud, that no one might see it, except the Holy Spirit, who is called the Mother of the Living." Sophia does not abandon her creation in horror. She carefully positions it, conceals it, and maintains a relationship with it through the Holy Spirit. This reads less like the panicked response to catastrophe and more like the careful placement of an agent within enemy territory. Later, when the demiurge creates the human form, Sophia poured out her light into it, deliberately seeding the archonic creation with divine essence. The Valentinian teacher Ptolemy explained in his letter to Flora that Sophia's actions, while appearing chaotic from a limited perspective, unfold according to the will of the Father operating through her. Even her passion, her suffering and confusion serves to generate the substance from which souls are fashioned, giving humanity its unique capacity for both error and enlightenment. The psychic realm, intermediate between pure spirit and dead matter, exists only because Sophia's mixed state creates a mixed domain. This is not accident, but necessity, for without this intermediate realm, no bridge could exist between the pleroma and creation, no path of return could be forged. The psychological and practical implications of reframing Sophia's fall as cosmic mission fundamentally alter how you understand your own existence in the material world. If the physical realm is merely an error, a prison to escape, then your task is purely one of extraction. Reject the body, transcend emotion, flee matter for spirit. This produces the world-denying asceticism that characterized some Gnostic sects, and that early Christianity rightly identified as life-negating. But if the material realm is an intentional arena for consciousness development, a crucible designed to forge souls capable of bearing divine light without dissolving, then your incarnation here is not punishment, but sacred task. You are not trapped in matter, you are embedded in it as Sophia was, as an agent of transformation working from within. The philosopher Gerhard Dorn, translating Hermetic alchemy into spiritual practice, wrote that the goal of the great work is not to escape the body, but to make from the body and soul a single and indestructible substance. To unite spirit and matter so completely that the division itself dissolves. This is Sophia's ultimate aim, and it becomes yours. Every moment of suffering, every confrontation with limitation, every experience of desire and death and separation becomes raw material for the generation of consciousness that could exist nowhere else. Consider how this mission framework transforms the meaning of Gnosis itself. In the traditional fallen Sophia narrative, Gnosis is primarily about remembering your true origin and escaping the archonic deception. Knowledge liberates you from the prison. But if Sophia's descent was purposeful, then Gnosis becomes something far more active and creative. It is not merely recollection, but integration. Not just remembering that you are divine spirit, but learning to be divine spirit within matter, to transmute lead into gold, to redeem the demiurge's creation from within by infusing it with conscious presence. The Corpus Hermeticum describes the enlightened human as one who encompasses heaven and earth in one embrace, who contains all things in thought as if he were all things. This is not escape from materiality, but its complete integration and transformation. You become the living reconciliation of Sophia and the pleroma, matter and spirit, form and emptiness. The tantric traditions of India articulated this understanding most explicitly. The world is not illusion to be rejected, but the body of the goddess to be recognized and revered. Shakti's descent into manifestation is not fall, but play, divine Leela, the cosmic dance in which consciousness deliberately veils itself in order to experience the ecstasy of self-discovery. Sophia dancing as Shakti, Shekinah dwelling in the world soul animating creation. These are not errors, but expressions of the feminine principle of wisdom that knows incarnation is the only path to full realization. The mystery school teachings preserved this secret interpretation through their initiation rites, embedding the truth in experiential ritual rather than written doctrine. At Eleusis, Initiates underwent a symbolic death and rebirth, descending into underground chambers where they confronted terrifying visions before emerging into blinding light and transcendent revelation. This was not mere theater. It was an embodied enactment of Sophia's journey, teaching the initiate that descent precedes ascent, that the way up is the way down. The Orphic mysteries taught that the soul carries both Titanic and Dionysian nature, both matter and spirit, and that salvation consists not in rejecting the Titanic, but in integrating it consciously. Valentinian Gnostics practiced the bridal chamber sacrament, a ritual union symbolizing the reunion of Sophia with her consort, but also representing the integration within the individual of masculine and feminine, spirit and soul, transcendence and immanence. These practices taught through direct experience what could not be safely written. That the fall was always part of the rise, that Sophia's fragmentation was the necessary prelude to a more glorious synthesis, that you must become fully human to become truly divine. The evidence accumulates across textual sources, mystical traditions, and initiatic wisdom. Sophia's descent appears less and less like cosmic accident and more like the universe's deepest strategy for self-realization. The pleroma, in its perfection, faces the fundamental problem of all complete systems. They cannot evolve, cannot grow, cannot discover anything new because they already contain everything. To generate novelty, to create beings capable of authentic choice and genuine transformation, the divine must introduce incompleteness, must create conditions where consciousness can lose itself and thereby embark on a hero's journey of return. Sophia becomes the bridge across the abyss, sacrificing her unity to scatter seeds of light throughout the darkness. Each human soul is one of these seeds, a fragment of her divine essence embedded in matter, equipped with just enough memory to sense its true origin, but immersed deeply enough in forgetfulness to make the journey of awakening real and meaningful. You stand now at the crossroads of interpretation. The traditional view offers a certain comfort. You are innocent, trapped by forces beyond your control, and salvation comes through correct belief and eventual extraction from this fallen world. But the mission interpretation demands more of you. It suggests that you chose this incarnation, that your struggles are not meaningless suffering, but the very friction required to polish consciousness into a mirror capable of reflecting the divine. It means Sophia's passion is your passion, her descent your descent, her eventual restoration your eventual restoration. When you awaken Gnosis, you are not just saving yourself. You are participating in the cosmic redemption that Sophia initiated when she first stepped beyond the veil of the pleroma. The demiurge's prison becomes a chrysalis, the archons become unwitting servants of transformation, and matter itself reveals its secret nature as spirit in maximum density, awaiting the recognition that transmutes it back into light. The question that opened this exploration, did Sophia fall or was she sent, reveals itself as a false dichotomy. Both are true, and neither is complete. From the perspective of the forms within the pleroma, her action appears as fall, as violation, as the introduction of chaos into order. But from the perspective of the farther beyond form, her descent unfolds exactly as intended, the outbreath that will one day become the inbreath, the separation that creates the possibility of reunion. The Gnostic secret is learning to see from both perspectives simultaneously, to know yourself as both the fallen fragment crying out for salvation and the divine agent deliberately placed here to redeem creation from within. This double vision is what the initiate achieves, the ability to inhabit paradox without collapsing it into premature resolution, to be fully present in the material world while never forgetting your celestial origin, to work diligently at the alchemical transformation of matter while recognizing that matter was always spirit wearing a convincing disguise. If these words have awakened something dormant within you, if you sense the possibility that your existence here is not accident but appointment, then the path of the Gnostic agent opens before you. Every moment becomes an opportunity to participate in Sophia's work, transforming ignorance into wisdom, darkness into light, separation into unity. This is not abstract theology, but lived practice, requiring you to engage deeply with the very materiality that some spiritual teachings urge you to transcend. Join those of us who walk this hidden path, who understand that the light shines brightest when it learns to illuminate the darkness without being extinguished by it. Your subscription to this channel, your engagement with this knowledge, your willingness to question inherited narratives, these are not casual interests, but signs that you carry Sophia's light within you, and that the time has come to remember why you descended into this realm. The pleroma awaits not your escape, but your return, bearing the jewels of wisdom that can only be mined in the depths of manifestation.